Hello friends, my name is Satyam. Today I will tell you about Subhash Chandra Bose, the unforgettable hero. During India's struggle for independence, numerous leaders rose to prominence. One of these fearless leaders was Subhash Chandra Bose, who was admired by all. Subhash Chandra Bose, also known as NETAJI, was an important figure in India's war of independence. NETAJI Jayanti, or officially Parakram Divas, Day of Valor, is a national event celebrated in India to mark the birth anniversary of this prominent Indian freedom fighter, NETAJI. It is celebrated annually on 23 January. Subhash Chandra Bose was the son of Prabhavati Bose and Janakinath Bose and was born on 23 January 1897 in Cuttack, Odisha, to an upper middle class family. He was a bright young man with a strong sense of self-worth. Netaji was a brilliant student who scored second in the matriculation examination. He graduated from Scottish Church College in Kolkata after finishing his schooling at Raveneshwar Collegiate School. In February 1916, Bose was alleged to have masterminded or participated in an incident involving E.F. Overton, professor of history at Presidency. Before the incident, it was claimed by the students Overton had made rude remarks about Indian culture and collared and pushed some students. According to Overton, the students were making an unacceptably loud noise just outside his class. A few days later, on February 15, some students accosted Overton on a stairway and surrounded him, beat him with sandals, and took to flight. An inquiry committee was constituted. Although Overton, who was unhurt, could not identify his assailants, a college servant testified seeing Subhash Bose among those fleeing. Bose was expelled from the college and rusticated from University of Kolkata. At his father's urging, Subhash Bose agreed to travel to England to prepare and appear for the Indian Civil Services ICS examination. Arriving in London on 20 October 1990, Subhash redid his application for the ICS. There were 6 vacancies in the ICS. Netaji took the open competitive exam for them in August 1920 and was placed 4th. In April 1921, Subhash Bose made his decision firm not to take the final examination for the ICS and wrote to Sarath, informing him of the same, apologizing for the pain he would cause to his father, his mother, and other members of his family. On April 22, 1921, he wrote to the Secretary of State for India, Edwin Montagu, stating, "I wish to have my name removed from the list of probationers in the Indian Civil Services." He started the newspaper Swaraj and took charge of publicity for the Bengal Provincial Congress Committee. His mentor was Chittaranjan Das, who was a spokesman for aggressive nationalism in Bengal. In the year 1923, Bose was elected the president of All India Youth Congress and also the secretary of Bengal State Congress. He was also the editor of the newspaper Forward, founded by Chittaranjan Das. Bose worked as the CEO of the Calcutta Municipal Corporation. Later, he was elected mayor of Calcutta in 1924. In a roundup of nationalists in 1925, Bose was arrested and sent to prison in Mandalay. In 1927, after being released from prison, Bose became General Secretary of the Congress Party and worked with Jawaharlal Nehru for independence. In late December 1928, Bose organized the annual meeting of the Indian National Congress in Calcutta. His most memorable role was as General Officer commanding of Congress Volunteer Corps. A little later, Bose was again arrested and jailed for for civil disobedience. This time, he emerged to become mayor of Calcutta in 1930. During the mid-1930s, Bose travelled in Europe, visiting the Indian students and European politicians, including Benito Mussolini. He observed party organization and saw communism and fascism in action. In this period, he wrote the first part of his book, The Indian Struggle. This book covered the country's independence movement in the year 1920 to 1934. Although it was published in London in 1935, the British government banned the book in the colony out of fears that it would encourage unrest. In 1938, Bose stated his opinion that the INC should be organized on the broadest anti-imperialist front with the twofold objective of winning political freedom and the establishment of a socialist regime. By 1938, Bose had become a leader of national stature and agreed to accept nomination as Congress President. He stood for unqualified Swaraj, including the use of force against the British. This meant a confrontation with Mohandas Gandhi, who in fact opposed Bose's presidency, splitting the Indian National Congress Party. In April 1941, Bose arrived in Nazi Germany. A 3,000-strong Free India Legion was recruited from among Indian prisoners of war to serve under Bose. Adolf Hitler, during his only meeting with Bose in late May 1942, offered to arrange a submarine. Bose boarded a German submarine in February 1943 off Madagascar. He was transferred to a Japanese submarine, from which he disembarked in Japanese-held Sumatra in May 1943. With Japanese support, Bose revamped the Indian National Army (INA), which comprised Indian prisoners of war of British India Army, which had been captured by the Japanese in the Battle of Singapore. A provisional government of Free India was declared on the Japanese-occupied Andaman and Nicobar Islands and nominally presided by Bose. In late 1944 and early 1945, the British India Army reversed the Japanese attack on India. Almost half the Japanese forces and the participating INA contingent were killed. The remaining INA was driven down the Malay Peninsula and surrendered with the recapture of Singapore. Netaji was a fiery Indian who famously chanted, "Give me blood and I will give you freedom." No real change in history has ever been achieved by discussions. Give me blood and I will give you freedom. Forget not that the grossest crime is to be compromised with injustice and wrong. Remember the eternal law. You must give if you want to get. The honorific Netaji was first applied to Bose in Germany in early 1942 by the Indian soldiers of the Industry Legion and by the German and Indian officials in the Special Bureau for India in Berlin. It is now used throughout India. On August 18, 1945, his plane crashed en route to Japan and he died tragically. Many critics, however, refused to believe the idea put forth by various government organizations, and many believe he miraculously survived the plane crash and lived as a hermit for a while in northern India. In India, the mystery surrounding his final days is still a heated topic. Last year, the central government announced that January 23 will be celebrated as Parakram Divas or Day of Valor. Ahead of the Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose 125th birth anniversary, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has announced that he hologram statue on the legendary freedom fighter on his 125th birth anniversary on January 23, 2022 at India Gate. The statue will be placed in the canopy and will replace the Amar Jawan Jyoti, which will be merged with the eternal flame of the National War Memorial Torch. Though Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose is no more in this world, yet his name will ever shine. He will always be counted as one of the greatest freedom fighters of India and will always stay in our hearts forever. On this 125th anniversary, I salute the great soul. Thank you and Jai Hind.